Water issues come up in these things, don't they?
Oh, my goodness. That is turning out to be the most economically important thing that we have to protect, because water is more valuable all the time. And the Continental Divide runs through the middle of the bioregion. And if we protect these high elevation forests from logging, we can keep the snow from melting and let the water come down later in the season when it's most needed. And the interesting thing is that I can't finish the sentence, but let me just go. The other interest...
Can you sing it, Carole?
I can probably talk it more easily, but I'll sing a note or something in a minute. But the other interest that is fiercely opposed to this bill is the off-road vehicle group of users. Now, I have a snowmobile and an ATV, and I use both. And they're fun, but I don't think I have to ride them everywhere. And in my state, in Idaho, and in the bioregion, there are many, many places where they can go, and still off-road vehicle users want to go everywhere. And there are places where that is not good for the ecosystem, the land, the wildlife, and all sorts of things. Now, what's interesting, and I'm going to tie it back to the water, is many of those users are farmers and ranchers. And I'm trying to help make that connection for them. It's like if you ride elsewhere and walk in these areas, then you're protecting that water that's so important to you and your family.
My guest is Carole King, and we're talking not about music, although maybe we'll be able to get to a little bit on that.
I'm sure we will.
But we're talking about the environment and the environment in the Northern Rockies. How many states involved in this?
There are 5 states involved, and the reason is because it's an ecosystem, and the ecosystem overlaps those states.
Now, you left this ecosystem, New York City. Was it a culture shock when you moved to Idaho?
At first it was. I mean, I like to tell the story about when I went out into the woods on a hike. I was really scared to leave the buildings and the people behind, and then in a little while I was scared to come back to the people and the buildings. But no, I mean,
how soon before you started thinking, well, we have to think about the environment here rather than just, I have a nice place in an area that I feel good about?
I think when I started to become aware of how trashed some of the places were getting, and then I met people who kind of explained why that was happening. It didn't make sense. And one of the things that didn't make sense, and this affects New Yorkers, is that, New York, it affects everybody in the country, is that these roads were being built into the roadless areas, number one, making them ineligible for further protection, and number two, at our expense, and we were not taking in enough income for the road being built. It was a below-cost situation.
Can't presidents declare these areas protected areas?
Bill Clinton did declare a moratorium on road building in the roadless areas, and that is still back and forth in the courts, but only Congress can designate wilderness.
Are the Rockies still as wild and as natural as most people in New York imagine them to be?
Decreasingly so, but yes, they are wild and wonderful. And where I live in central Idaho, I actually live among wolves, and I mean real wolves, as opposed to the other kind.
Has it affected what you do? You're still composing, I imagine.
Oh, I'm definitely still composing. They won't scare me out of that, but
that isn't what I meant. I meant because there is a different sensibility when you're walking the streets regularly. Well, you were in a very different business when you were composing. You would go to the Brill Building and write songs as part of a little group of people, and then singers would come, would find you'd offer the songs to singers, and then they would perform them, and you'd hope for a hit. That doesn't happen anymore. It's a whole other kind of a music business.
Yeah, it was definitely a window of opportunity, and it was 1650 Broadway. The Brill Building was occupied by other wonderful writers, but yeah, I mean, it was a window of opportunity, and I feel really lucky that I got to do that as a songwriter. And then when I went to California and started working with Lou Adler and James and Danny Korchmar and some of my other friends, that was another amazing window of opportunity. I just feel very fortunate. I don't know that Tapestry could be a hit if it was released today, honestly.
Well, for a long time, it was the best-selling record of all time, album of all time, wasn't it? Was it until Michael Jackson's
That's exactly
Thriller came
right.
along?
That's exactly
Well,
right.
that that's like being Babe Ruth and then having Hank Aaron surpass you. That's pretty good, isn't it?
That's pretty great.
Do you have neighbors who even know that?
Oh, yeah. They all know.
Well, I guess we should have guessed something was happening when you wrote Natural Woman, because that sounds like something that a person who lives in the middle of the wilderness in Idaho might write.
Well, when Jerry and I wrote it, it was actually Jerry Wexler's title.
Yeah,
He
got writing credit for coming up with the idea, didn't he?
Yes, he did, and it was a good idea, and he deserved it. And Jerry Goffin's lyric, and he spoke from, getting into the mind of a woman. He did it beautifully, and he did that really well. Jerry Goffin did.
Who was your husband at the time?
Who was my husband at the time. With Will You Love Me Tomorrow, the quintessential teenage girl plaintive lyric.
Well, I was thinking about Up on the Roof. If you were writing that now, it would be about fixing the chimney.
Probably.